I'm gonna do my first chassis build on this video. I've used blank Hammond chassis, blank chassis before, and just cut the holes and stuff. But this is the first time I'm gonna start from a flat plate and machine all the holes this way. I use the CNC router mostly because I have one. You can do this by hand, and you see that router bit's getting hot. It's really probably not the right bit for cutting aluminum because I don't usually cut aluminum. This is a router for woodwork. So you got to keep the bit lubricated, and otherwise it'll load up with aluminum. And I ended up with some pretty gnarly cuts, but they cleaned up okay. So I'm cutting out for the transformer here, and I'm building this for a specific cabinet that I acquired at a garage sale. So I couldn't find a pre-made to fit it, but I wanted to try this anyway, doing my own. I went by Harbor Freight and bought a brake, sheet metal brake. I think it cost me $65 or something. There's some kinds of tools you can get away with Harbor Freight. Most of their stuff, their electric tools and any of that stuff, don't waste your money. But something like this actually worked. It's not going to be something I'm going to use every day. My everyday work tools, like I use if I'm doing electrical work, is I stick with Milwaukee. I mean, there's other good brands too, but that's the tools I work with. I'm not going to go out on a job site with Harbor Freight tools. But for bending sheet metal, I'm not going to spend $1,200 or $1,500 for a 10 Smith or some kind of a real sheet metal brake. Not for these little chassis. And I'm not even sure how many of them I'll do. This hole is for the rectifier tube and the mounting holes for it. When I start to bend this thing up, you'll see how all this works out. I lay it out flat on my CAD program first and get everything kind of in the right position, and then I move it to my CAD cam to actually write the G code for it. I can manually do the G code, but that CAD cam program's so much faster. Yeah, I realize not everybody's got equipment to do stuff like this, but like I said, all this could be done by hand. There's step drills and there's punches and that sort of thing. Now, cutting out that square hole for the transformer is not going to be that easy, but lay out the lines real good and be careful do it with a jigsaw, metal cutting blade in there with a jigsaw, and then get a file or what I have is a deburring tool, and clean it up, and it'll be fine. So you could do this much of it. You don't need a expensive router and a CAD CAM program and all that crap, but I already have it, so I'm going to use it. And then I just use the deburring tool and get rid of the sharp corners and burrs and stuff. So that's it in the flat. Now what I'm going to have to do now is get it laid out to put it up on the brake. And I did this, I should have thought of this before, but I could hardly see the marks I was making. And so what I eventually did, because at this point I'm marking it on the wrong side, and I didn't realize it here, but when I got over, turned around where my brake is, and I got ready to bend it, I go, wait a minute, this is going to be backwards. So I flipped it over, and this time what I did was I took some 800 grit sandpaper, and I sanded it in one direction, opposite the direction that my scribe lines were going to be, and the marks showed up really well then. This was impossible. But when we get to where I'm bending this up, I'd already flipped it over and remarked it on that side after I scratched up the surface a bit. So this is the little $65 Harbor Freight brake, and now there's really, it's pretty crude, but it actually bends the material. This is aluminum. It's a 3000 series aluminum, which bends fairly easily, and it's 40 thousandths thick. I don't know if I could bend 40 thousandths steel in this thing. But I mean, you wouldn't need to use that thick of steel if you're making a steel chassis. It doesn't need to be that thick. With aluminum, it has to be a little thicker because aluminum is just not as stiff. And so you got to clamp everything down, get it lined up just right, and then bend it up. I've got it screwed down to my bench, and I should have put a couple more screws in that, but I didn't. This is the first time I've really used it, and it makes actually ends up making a nice little bend. And for an aluminum chassis, it just, you know, I don't need any more than this. So that was the actual flange where the mounting holes are, and this is going to be one end. This looks like it's the back. It's going to face the back in the amplifier, and so yeah, you just clamp your bar down and make sure it's clamped pretty good. Otherwise, it'll try to push that material, and then fold it up. So I flipped it over and just did the other side the same way. And this is how it came out. So this is all I need. I don't need ends on this because of the cabinet will cover the ends. So it's just C-shape with the flange on there, and you can see now where the transformer and the tubes mount. And so now I've got to put panel nuts in there. The cabinet that I have has pre-drilled mounting holes for the to bolt the chassis in, and I use what's called panel nuts, and they're designed for softer metal, and they're 1032 screw size. So you drill the appropriate size hole, and for these it's a 1/4 inch hole, and then you use a ratchet or even an end wrench and tighten that up, and it pulls right into the aluminum and sets in there like that. So I don't like using sheet metal screws for mounting these to an amplifier. I mean, you know, they strip out quickly, and pretty soon you got a damn 1/2 inch lag bolt in there holding your chassis in. So I like to use machine screws for that. Looks like I got lucky here, and the mounting holes all lined up. One direction is pretty easy. The other direction is a little more difficult because you're folding in that direction and you got to compensate for material thickness and stuff, but somehow it worked out. Like I said, this is my first one. So this cabinet I picked up at a garage sale for $5. Pilot light, on-off switch there, the boost switch, and on the left side will be my input jack, and the volume will be next to it. Treble and bass. So yeah, it was $5 for this thing, and I turned it around. I go, wow, that's cheap. And I looked in there, and there was no brain. So now I got to finish it. Anyway, I'm going to end it here. Thanks for watching.